18. As Sabina would say, circumstances in which it develops, the causal factor as Sabina describes it, and the message, i.e., political theory, the valuational factor, as Sabina would insist. Political theory is not merely or only history, the statement of facts on which it works and has worked. In the past, i.e., history, it is a science insofar as it is not understood in isolation, and also a philosophy insofar as it motivates. 1.3.2 Political theory is philosophy. That political theory is a philosophy has been very well enunciated by scholars like Leo Strauss. What is political philosophy? Journal of Politics, 19 August 1967, but all philosophy is not political theory as all political theory is not philosophy. Philosophy, as an abstract study, encompassing the whole universe in general, and morals, norms, and values in particular, is the sum total of general laws governing the whole world. It has served political theory well through the ages as its valuational factor, as Sabina has said. Philosophy, as Kant says, has answered 3 questions: what can I know? What must I do? And what can I hope for? And this is what makes philosophy a lodestar of life. Without philosophy, no political theory can ever hope to exist. Without an eye on future, no present can ever afford to stay as no present stands. Without its past, political theory is a philosophy, for it not only seeks to know the nature of things but also attempts to explain as to why things really exist. One understands an action or a thought only by evaluating it. Evaluation is a part of understanding. Philosophy, as distinct from theory, is a quest for wisdom, or as Strauss holds the view, quest for universal knowledge, for knowledge of the whole. Political theory as philosophy is the attempt truly to know both the nature of political things and the right, or the good, political order. Strauss. Politics is not what one assumes or opines. In fact, a political theorist is expected to possess more than an assumption or an opinion, he has to have knowledge. Philosophy emerges when opinion, assumption attains the heights of knowledge, and that is what exactly is the task of political theory. Political theory as philosophy is an attempt to replace opinion, assumption about the nature of political things by knowledge of the nature of political things. Strauss. Values, Strauss believes, are an indispensable part of political theory as they are of philosophy. Every political philosopher has to be a teacher in his own right. He must profess, he must teach, he must persuade. Professor Verma, therefore, writes that the object of persuasion is always there before the political theorist. What some of the modern writers have described as the folklore of political philosophy, or mere ideology, is vital for the understanding of political theory. Political theory not only explains, but also affects, favorably or adversely. Evaluational aspects of a political activity are as important as its factual aspects. It is, in the sense, that values and facts form an integral part of any political theory. 1.3.3 Political theory is science. That political theory is a science has been forcefully emphasized by scholars from Arthur Bentley, The Process of Government, 1908, to George Catlin, The Science and Method of Politics, 1927, David Easton, The Political System, 1953, and Robert Dahl, Modern Political Analysis, 1963, but all science is not political theory, just as all political theory is not science. Political theory is not science in the sense chemistry or physics or mathematics is a science. It is not as exact a science as these natural or physical sciences are, because there are no universally recognized principles, no clear cause-effect relationships, no laboratories, and no predictions are made in political theory the way these are found in natural and exact sciences. 19. It is a science insofar as it admits concepts and norms which are both observable and testable, and insofar as it responds to the requirements of reason and rationalism. The American social science researchers in general, and the behavioralists in particular, sought to create a science of politics and in the process indulged in what may be called reductionism. Political theory is a science insofar as it can, and in fact, is applied to a social gathering and the definitive rules of the exact sciences are applicable within the limitations as in any social science. Political theory as a science is only a social science. It is a science in its methodology, in its approach, and in its analysis. To that extent, it is a science, a prime science as Aristotle had described it. It is a science insofar as its conclusions are drawn after study, observation, experiments. Features which go along with any normal definition of science. There is no need to go a long way to make a science of politics, and to find techniques and tools to make politics an exact science, no matter whether there remains, in the process, any political theory or not. The role of science in political theory should be limited to the extent that it helps understand a political phenomenon, and to that extent, science should have an entry in the realms of political theory. Political theory admits objectivity in association with subjectivity, facts in relation to values, research together with theory. Political theory as science generates neutral, dispassionate, and objective knowledge. See Colin Hay, Political Analysis, 2002. There are limits of social sciences. In contrast, the rules of the game, that of the exact sciences, do not change with time. The laws of physics, for instance, can be assumed to pertain to all situations at all times, past, present, and future. But this is not true of the social sciences. The nature of the economic and the political is, Colin Hay says, different after Keynes, and Marx in a way that the physical and the natural is not after Newton and Einstein. We must remember that social structures, unlike natural structures, do not exist independently of the activities they govern. Social structures, unlike the natural structures, do not exist independently of the agent's conceptions of what they are doing in their activity. Social structures, unlike natural structures, may be only relatively enduring. C.R. Bhaskar, The Limits of Naturalism, 1979. This is where the social sciences are different from the natural sciences. The limits of political theory are worked out within the ethics of political analysis. 1.4 Political theory, growth and evolution. Political theory has, in the West, passed through different stages. There was a time when, during the ancient Greek and the medieval period, political theory would concern itself with identifying the ethical goals of the state, i.e., the objectives which the state would cherish to achieve. Both Plato and Aristotle would insist on the functions of the state to establish justice or give the individual a good life. The medieval political theory, associated as it was with religion, demanded of the state to prepare and train the individual to seek a place with God. The early modern age political theory sought to discuss theories of the origin of the state, followed by philosophers with whom the organization and functions of the state were major concerns of the state. The mid-20th century political theory dealt largely with the institutions of the state, making the concept of power to be the basic theme of the state. The growth and evolution of political theory can be elaborated in three major streams. These are I. Classical political theory, E. Modern political theory, and E. Contemporary political theory. The classification of political theory into classical, modern, and contemporary is, indeed, thematic. What divides the classical or the traditional from the modern is the element of science in the latter and its absence in the former. Philosophy dominates the classical tradition of political theory, whereas science and its methodology dominate the modernist. As an exception, there may be an Aristotle and a Thomas in the ancient and the medieval periods of the West who might have emphasized the science element while discovering the laws of public life, and there may be a Strauss in our times who might see the utility of philosophy in the study of politics. Likewise, modern political theory and contemporary political theory are somewhat different, at least in their essence. Modern political theory is empirical and scientific, whereas contemporary political theory is philosophical and historical. Contemporary political theory attempts to synthesize the essence of both the classical and modern political theory. 1.4.1 Classical political theory. Classical political theory emerged in the ancient Greek culture, in the writings of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and continued until the beginning of the 19th century. The classical paradigm, according to Sheldon Wallen, relating to political theory, consisted of the following. Classical political theory aimed at acquiring reliable knowledge about matters concerning the people, a philosophical pursuit to establish a rational basis for belief, a politically inspired pursuit to establish a rational basis for action. It sought to identify the political with the public, the common, the Greek polis, the Roman res publica, and the medieval age usage of commonweal, all denoted a sharing of what was common among the people as partners. Its basic unit of analysis was always the political whole, the body politic, the interrelated structure denoting activity, relationship, and belief, activity relating to ruling, warfare, education, religious practices, relationships involving those between social classes, between the rulers and the ruled, between the superiors and the inferiors, belief, such as justice, equality, natural law, and the like. Relating itself to the political whole, the classical political theory laid emphasis on order, balance, equilibrium, stability, and harmony. That is why it, in the process, dwelt on terms such as conflicts, anarchy, instability, and revolution. Classical political theory laid stress on comparative studies for supplying a more comprehensive explanation of political phenomena and a wider range of alternatives. That was the reason that classical political theory developed a classification of political forms, e.g., monarchy, aristocracy, democracy, and their variants, and a set of concepts such as law, citizenship, justice, and participation so as to explain differences and similarities between them. Classical political theory had been largely ethical in perspective. Its response was rooted in a moral outlook. Plato advocated the ideal state, Aristotle, a state that can achieve the best possible. St. Augustine, the city of God. Classical political theory undertook to appraise the various constitutional forms, to determine the form most suitable for a particular set of circumstances, and to decide, if any, absolutely the best form possible. Classical political theory, by projecting the best form of polity as the ideal, revealed the boldness and radicalism of classical theorizing, though some dismissed such an attempt as merely utopian and visionary. 1.4.2 Modern political theory. Modern political theory encompasses in itself a host of diverse trends such as the institutional, structural, scientific, positivistic, empirical, behavioral, post-behavioral, and the Marxist. These